Good morning, everyone. First off, we want to welcome you all to the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute and United States Department of Agriculture Agricultural Marketing Service short course on transitioning a meat processing business. I'm Clay Newton, the AURI Meat Innovation Specialist and your moderator for today. This program aims to actively engage all participants in the food and ag industry, specifically local and regional meat and poultry processors, as well as supply chain to improve competitiveness of producers, businesses, and entrepreneurs through ongoing purposeful connection of resources and partners along the value chain, as well as increasing knowledge of opportunities, technologies, and trends. This short course is being recorded and will be available on AURI's website, auri.org, under our Meat Science page, as well as on AURI's YouTube channel. So please feel free to share this with anyone in your network afterwards. This topic of transitioning a meat business stems from a larger collaborative project with the USDA AMS to empower local and regional meat and poultry processors within the upper Midwest region. So while conducting needs assessments in the 5-state region of Minnesota, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin, to determine potential areas of opportunities and bottlenecks in the very small to medium scale sector of processors and industry partners, as well as other external conversations in which the topic was addressed and identified multiple times during conversations as a deliverable and resource for meat and poultry processors. Therefore, the goal of today's topic is to provide insights from a panel of peers involved with the meat and poultry processing industry who will share their experiences with transitioning a meat business and address opportunities and challenges of navigating the transfer of ownership. This short course is designed specifically for very small meat and poultry processing business owners who are considering selling or transitioning their business in the near future. Whether you're looking to sell to a family member, employee, or outside buyer, you will leave this session with valuable insights and strategies to assist in making the process smooth and as effective as possible. Before we get started, since we have some new participants on today's call, we wanted to provide AURI's mission. AURI's mission is to accelerate the expansion of agricultural economy by empowering expanded uses and markets of agriculturally derived products. With the commercialization, research and development, and innovation focus of our 4 different areas, including food, as well as co-products, bio-based products, and renewable energy, which help make up our larger bio-industrial team. So for today's short course, we had the pleasure of having Angela and Nathan Jenigas of Jenigas Meats, located in Bruton, Minnesota, and Dean Morgan from Morgan Meats in Waseca, Minnesota. We're glad to have you both on here today, and let's get started. So to start off with some questions, I'd like to have each of you in time introduce yourself, as well as provide a short summary of your meat processing business that you've either sold or ended up purchasing. So Dean, would you like to lead us off with that?
Sure. I've been involved in the meat industry for roughly 40 years. I started basically cutting meat in 1984, 85, went to Pipestone, worked for various other shops. This could never find I enjoyed what I was doing, but I knew there was more. So in 2003, I bought my first shop in New Richland, which is about 12 miles to the south of my shop right now. And it was actually shut down by the state. It was in pretty rough shape, but it was kind of the only direction I could really go at that point in time. And because there's no other shops in my area for sale, so we just opened up one that was shut down. Kind of a long story short, we got it up and going. 2012, we got flooded out, completely destroyed the shop because it's right on a creek, and we ended up with 12 inches of rain in about 6 hours, and our shop was over knee deep in water, the entire shop. So kind of getting into the whole meat industry thing, you got to kind of watch where where you spend your money, where you can cut corners. And you really shouldn't cut corners, because I was cutting corners on insurance. The guy that originally built that shop in New Richland uh, lived right behind the shop, and he was over about 6 months before the shop got flooded out. And I had told him that, we're just kind of going as cheap as we could on insurance, we don't want to go broke paying our premiums and everything. And he said, that's one place you do not want to cut corners. So we had the insurance adjuster come down uh, and went through it, redid our entire insurance plan that we had with them, covered ourselves. I felt I was over covered, but thankfully that older guy that he's retired out of the meat industry now, but told me not to cut corners on insurance. Time it was all said and done, we had about $750,000 stuck back into the shop that I wouldn't have been able to do if I would have kept my previous insurance plan. And the thing with the insurance companies, they have to understand that you're dealing with food and just perishable products. So thankfully, our company had us completely covered. They didn't question anything. They did question one thing, because we were replacing ceiling panels and all the way up to the rafters. And they questioned doing that because that didn't get wet. But all I had to do is tell me what was food airborne, because it came out of the sewers, and tell me what is on the ceiling that came out of the sewers as far as things that were airborne. And we're dealing with a food product, not just a farm shop. And when I told them that, they just said, go ahead, whatever you got to do, replace it all. So we had the entire shop stripped down to the studs, re-insulated, all new glass board, new floor put down. All the equipment got sent away, got completely gone through. And it's actually probably the best thing that ever happened to our shop, because we basically rebuilt our whole shop. So after that, things were going good, and then COVID hit. And obviously anybody that was involved in that realized that our small meat shops were not being supported by the state or USDA as far as getting grants to help upgrade and everything else. Our equipment costs are just unbelievable. I mean, I just bought new smokehouse and stuffer, and right there, just two pieces of equipment's $250,000. So that's not getting into your coolers, refrigeration, anything else. So anyway, in 2021, we actually ended up selling our shop in New Richland. Just a customer came in, and that old guy that told me about our insurance, his grandson wanted to shop back in the family. So I wasn't in the market to sell it. So I just said, shoot me a price. I said, everything's got a price on it, but I'm not looking to sell it. So just keep that in mind when you give me a price. So anyway, we ended up working out a deal. The ball was kind of in my court, because I did not want to sell. So I would not sign a no compete clause. I got to keep all my recipes. I wouldn't work for them. The day we signed the papers was the last day I was in that shop. Came up to Waseca, basically 12 miles away, bought this shop and completely gutted it. Got it back in pretty decent order. And then now we're finishing our last phase of our expansion. Went under USDA, and we're going to concentrate on smoked products, snack sticks, jerky, anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of my story. I've been here for 3 years, and that's where I'll probably end up retiring.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dean. Angela, Nathan, would you like to tell us the same, a little bit of how you got a little summary into how you got into purchasing your business?
So we got married in 2008. Um, Nathan had worked for the previous owners when he was in high school and a little bit throughout college. We both went off to college, got our own degrees. Nathan was working at an engineer in Douglas Machines in Alexandria. I had just had our first baby, and he came home one day and said that the owners of the locker in Bruton were looking to sell, and it was something that he wanted to get into. He didn't want to work behind a desk anymore. Um, and that's where he was feeling called. So we spoke with them. They had actually listed with a real estate agent. So instead of paying the realtor fees, we waited out the 3-year contract that they were under and we just worked for them. I had to learn the business. I had no background in meat processing. I grew up on a farm, but I didn't have that background. So we worked for the previous owners for 3 years, learning the business side of things. Um, and the more intricate details of what went into the meat processing business. And on November 1st of 2012, we officially took over that business. We were there until COVID hit. And as Dean has already stated, COVID was one of the better things to happen to our industry all the way around. And that's when we started talking about expanding. In our old facility, we were only custom exempt. We were equal to for a short time when we first took over, but we had dropped that and we were only equal to for the remainder of the time that we were in our old facility. We were only custom exempt in our old facility. And then we decided in 2020, 2021 to start possibly expanding our old business. The building was kind of crumbling around us, so it was either stick a whole lot of money into that building or simply move. So we ended up buying 8 acres on Highway 55, about a mile from our old facility, from a farmer. And in January of this year, we opened our new facility. We are now USDA inspected. We have a full retail counter, a small grocery store, and we have tripled our capacity size for slaughtering. Yeah, that's about it. Now we're here.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. It's really nice to hear a little bit of background of how you got into it. And I guess, I know both of you kind of mentioned it, but when did you start, think about purchasing a locker? I know, Dean, you said that you were working in meat cutting, but how long was kind of that thought process of I'm cutting? How long was it that you were thinking there's more, I want to own a business, to actually moving forward and purchasing a business?
It's always kind of been in the back of my head as far as purchasing a business, but the timing was never right. I'd worked for basically one of the first guys that I worked for. And I was pretty young at the time. I was only in my early 20s, had questioned or asked me what my future plans were in the meat industry. And I was unsure as far as what I wanted to do at that point in time because he was looking to sell and get out of it. Looking back, that would have been a kind of a like good and bad in both sides. It was an old building, kind of on Main Street in an old town. So that building probably would have had been to keep moving forward with what I want. I probably would have had to tear that building down, kind of like what Angela and Nathan had to do. You can only go so far with an old building. And then basically what you're doing is just fixing up an old building and you still have an old building. So while I was thinking about it, he ended up selling it to one of my coworkers and I moved on because we didn't see eye to eye as far as, how I like to do things and how he wanted to do it. And obviously he was the owner. So, he was doing things the way he wanted it done. Obviously, I didn't think it was right. And he ultimately ended up closing because poor management decisions. But anyway, shortly after that, I just went to work at a grocery store and I just never felt satisfied there. Always felt there was something more. Um, So like I say, it probably took me about 15 years to finally pull the trigger on buying my own shop. Glad I did. You know, it's a lot of work. It's 7 days a week. If you're not waking up in the middle of the night thinking about the shop, your heart's not in it. Because it's just something, it's almost like family. I mean, I think anybody that's got a business, whether it's a meat shop or any other business, if you can't walk through the shop and it's totally dark and not bump into anything, then you're really not committed to your shop. Um, like it's it's all you think about. It's what you do. You go on vacation. You're on vacation, but you're really not on vacation because it's all you're thinking about. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Angela and Nathan, I know Nathan, you, as Angela said, you were working in a engineering firm, I believe you said, and then decided that you wanted to make that transition. How long have you kind of been thinking about taking that jump into the meat processing sector?
Well, in what 2002 is when I kind of started there in high school, just cleaning and stuff. And I mean, I worked there summers, and then when I, then at that time, I was like, "There's no way I want to do this for the rest of my life." So, and then I went to college, and the previous owner had heart trouble. So then that next summer, I did all his slaughtering for him, and then he came back, and I kind of just went on with what I was going to school for and travel. I actually worked in food processing, which was in engineering, which I traveled around as a field service technician all over the United States for a few years, working on big like companies, their packaging machinery and stuff like that. And then I don't know, I just once I moved up into engineering from that, I never I always wanted to be hands-on, do something different. I grew up on a beef farm and I guess I just felt like that I needed to go back and do that. That's kind of what I was meant to do. So
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, I know both of you said that you're USDA inspected now. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to purchase into a building or even go through building a locker on inspection level that they should shoot for? I mean, obviously that's very dependent upon the area and what you can do, but what considerations would you tell them to think about whether choosing to go custom with retail exempt for a storefront or equal to or all the way up to USDA? Uh, Angela, Nathan, do you want to start with that?
I think it depends a lot on where they're hoping to draw their customer base from. So when we were in our old shop, our customer base was mostly just local farmers. We just didn't have the capacity to do anything more than that. When we started talking about expanding and building our new facility, that's when, and again after COVID, when a lot of people have started shipping their own meats, labeling, doing custom labeling with their own farm names, those kind of things. And so I think it just really depends on, like you said, your location, where you're at, and what you want to be able to offer and how far you're willing to take that, for people to be able to market their own products, or if you want to simply be able to do your own in-house.
yeah, I guess to me, when we were custom, we were with what we had there, we were as busy as we wanted to be. We had a waiting list. Um, we always kind of liked our retail side of things too. We just couldn't ever promote our product because we were only custom. So I don't know. And then with the USDA now during COVID, when you couldn't get boxed beef or they jacked the prices up and stuff, at least this is an option for us. We can buy beef, sell it through our shop and slaughter it. So we can kind of control some of that on our own too. If something like that would ever happen again, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Dean?
Well, I think if somebody's starting out, and even I'm sure you guys, Angela and Nathan, I mean, you got, like you say, you're married to your business. And that's the first thing I would tell somebody that's looking to start their own business. It's you're going to be married to it. But what is your 3-year plan? What is your 5-year plan? What is your 10-year plan? And what is your exit plan? Even if you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, doesn't matter. You always have to have an exit plan. What is going to be your perfect exit plan? Is it going to be just staying and being content being a custom plant, which is what I was down in Richland? And like you guys had mentioned earlier, we're as busy as we could be down there. We had a waiting list to get in. We had a decent retail business, but I always wanted more. I wanted to get my product out. And with us down in Richland, we were so close to the Iowa border. Um, and once again, like you said, location, it would only make sense down there to go USDA because you're only like say 30 miles from the border. So you wouldn't be able to cross the border. And that's for me personally why I went USDA because we're still pretty close to the border. What my 10-year plan is to get out and promote our product and just go around the country, do a lot of private labeling. So it's all a matter of what your business plan is. You know, have a good business plan, understand your business plan, have a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan, what you plan on doing and be realistic with it. You know, if you don't want to work and you don't want to be married to your books as far as your HACCP and stuff like that, custom might be the plan for you. If you're more business, not that custom plants not business oriented, but once you go under inspection, it's more business management, book management, paper trails, stuff like that. If you're content with that, then that would be the route I would say to go. So it's all in what your outlook is. You know, like say, there's a lot of people that are doing very well as a custom plant. There's a lot of my good friends in the industries perfectly content being equal too. And another good friend of mine, he just lives probably 10 miles from the Iowa border, and his decision to go under USDA was because he was so close to the border. So it's just a lot of factors that are going to go into it. You know, it's just what are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of your business?
Yeah, awesome. So thanks for that input there. Looking at whether it be purchasing a locker or even deciding what the state of a locker to purchase or whether to build from scratch, what are some potential difficulties if you're looking at um purchasing a locker? What do you think people should look for in that specific locker, whether it be condition, price, equipment included, recipes included, or just try and go in and make everything exactly how they want to do it? Angela, Nathan, could you start with that?
I guess I mean, when we started, we were 23. Our biggest thing is we went to the bank and they're like, we're not giving you no money. This is crazy. You guys are living a good life. Why would you want to change it? That's basically what our banker told us. So we ended up going back, speaking to the previous owners, and ended up doing a contract for deed with them, which he worked with us for like 2 years after we took over. He never questioned how we ran our business, worked for us, punched in, went home at the end of the day, but he never questioned anything. And I think, I don't know, to me, it was like a 10-year deal, but we had him paid off before we came over to our new location. But I think, I mean, just being able to work with him on that, and he was very good because he wanted his business that he started to be successful and keep going. So I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Having a good relationship with the previous owners, I think is beneficial. I don't think it's, a deal breaker, but I think it benefits both of you, for them to, like Nathan said, sell their business and keep it successful. They want to see it to continue to run, I would think, and want to see you be successful. I would say the other big thing that, might come into play a little bit more, especially now kind of, is the condition of the shop. There haven't been very many meat lockers built brand new from the ground up in the last, several years. And so finding a meat locker that, isn't grandfathered in, that the state's not going to come in and shut you down a month after you take it over, making sure that everything's up to code and up to your standards before you really step in there and take that business over.
Yeah, so what would be some of those big things that that someone purchasing or selling would really need to look at that could render them not up to code?
Compressors.
You mean as far as like the condition of the building?
Yeah, as far as the condition of the building.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, something that we really struggled with for 10 whole years was the compressors in our old building. They were just, I mean, they were from the 70s. They were just old. Freezers, coolers, any kind of mold growth, anything like that.
Your flooring is a big thing
Flooring.
now with cracks or stuff like that.
Yeah. And just maybe calling like the Department of Ag and just getting kind of,
A walkthrough.
yeah, a walkthrough or some kind of background from them about what you should be looking at and what, they might potentially come in and tell you is going to be an issue. And if there are issues in the building, then definitely speaking with the previous owners, if you're looking to purchase one, and just having that conversation with them about, hey, these are the things that need to be up to code and that might change the purchase price or the way that they're willing to work with you.
Yeah. And Dean, you kind of coming at it from a slightly different aspect. You had bought your shop, ended up going through those issues with the flood, and then the gentleman you bought it from, his son or grandson, I can't remember what you said, wanted to come back and buy it. So, obviously everything had to line up there, but what were you looking at when you made that move into Waseca specifically?
Well, so I've always been adamant about repairs, whether it's in the shop, at my house, wherever, vehicles. If something's not running right, you fix it. And that's how I ran my shop in Richland. After the flood, we spray foamed everything. We just didn't put bad insulation in. We spray foamed it. We put a high quality glass board up. We put that HTF flooring down, brand new cases, compressors. I mean, the shop is in really good shape. We blew 2 feet of insulation in the attic, put new windows in. So we went from in the wintertime where our furnaces would barely shut off to where now they're very seldom running. Our shop was just in really good shape. Freezers were good. We actually made some of our freezers from scratch, spray foamed them, and that they were fine with it. The state was fine with that. But when I came up here, I did overlook a few things because I was kind of excited to get up in here. I did have a inspector do a walkthrough. I actually had him do a walkthrough twice. Just minor things, no big deal. But under my own negligence, I overlooked a few things that I should not have. Basically, what I tell people when I bought this building, it had a lot. There's lipstick on a pig. It looked good, but you peel the lipstick and makeup off, she was in pretty rough shape. All the compressors, and I had a refrigeration guy walk through here too, and said everything was fine. Within a year, all but one compressor and condenser had to be replaced. And as if we all know, they're not cheap. I mean, within a 2-week span, I had 2 of them go out, and that was $35,000 in the dead of summer. 95, 100 degrees out, killed them both. There I sat. So when you're buying a new shop, like I said, get multiple people walking through, find a good, and that refrigeration guys that walk through my shop, I no longer use them, but I would get multiple refrigeration guys walking through, have them take a hard look at your freezers, like Angela and Nathan had said. Everything they said is basically what I was gonna say. Your freezers, your coolers, your refrigeration. And I neglected to crawl up in the attic of this building. But when we were doing our remodel for retail, guys crawled up there to run some wiring, and there was only an inch of insulation up there. It had all settled. So I had to re-insulate the attic. The windows were fine. The floor was fine because they had to put that new flooring down before I bought it. But we went to move our retail cases around, and I knew they were old, but when we went to move them, the bottoms fell out. So I had to buy all new cases. And thankfully I found them in a hurry because this was during COVID. You couldn't find anything. But yeah, there's just so many things to look at, and don't be afraid to reach out to other shops. I have a really good relationship with a lot of shops in the state, whether they're next door to me or up north. I talked to Harvey from St. Joe's a lot. Kelly from Foley Meats, Jennifer from McDonald's, even up as far as Hibbing, I talked to those guys. Everybody's got fantastic ideas to kind of run off you as far as ideas. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to other plants. Everybody's in this game together. You know, we all want to see the next shop succeed. You don't want to see anybody falter, fall by the wayside. So, you know, my biggest thing is get involved in the meat association, whether it's state or AMP. I got involved in the state association, and I learned a ton from those guys just from being on the meat board. They will share all kinds of information. You have an issue with a recipe, they will help you correct that issue during a meeting. Or you can call them on the phone and say, hey, I'm having an issue with something. They will help you out. Everybody helps everybody in this industry. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort, and other shops see that, they'll bend over backwards to help you out. Because like I said, nobody wants to see anybody fail. So kind of a long answer, but that's what I would tell new people is just get involved. Get to know your neighboring shops. Don't be afraid to talk to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that while I'm not actively in the cutting room or in the business room every single day like you three are, going to those state association meetings, whether even just the talking in the trade room floor or at breakfast, the amount of information that's shared there is fantastic. But yeah, moving on. So if someone, obviously this could be very different dependent upon who they're purchasing from, but even just in your experience or from people that you've heard, if they're looking to buy an existing locker, do they typically, what kind of information gets transferred from the owner to the purchaser, whether it be recipes or tips and tricks, even down to like equipment, obviously that can change the purchasing price, or even just continued work with employees that are currently there during that transfer. What have you three experienced in your time in the industry? Dean, would you like to start that?
Well, when we sold our shop, like I said earlier, we got to keep our recipes, but they also got to keep a copy of them. I was an open book. I told them absolutely everything. I had 10 employees. I had a list made of each employee. And as we all know, you can't treat everybody exactly the same, because how you may talk to one employee, you can't talk to another one. They're more sensitive, or you might have one that's a little more harsh, and you have to be a little more harsh with them for them to understand. So I just kind of wrote down each employee's traits, and how you talk to them. And my phone was always by my side. If they had any questions, I was always more than willing to drive down there and help them run the equipment, because these guys were green. They had zero meat cutting experience. They depended on their employees to help them out for the first 6 months to a year. I couldn't help them obviously because I was running my own shop here as far as every single day being down there. But they called me every day and I would help them with stuff as far as uh the how to run the smokehouses, um just anything else if something happened or something was making a noise. And like I said, I was in that shop for almost 20 years, so I knew every noise that shop made. And I kept all of the smokehouse schedules there. I actually took a copy of them all too, and they were fine with all that. So when they did call me, all I had to do was punch up on my computer on what program they were talking about, and I would help them through it if they wanted to change it. I encouraged them not to change it, but I told them it was their shop now and they could do whatever they wanted. But I explained why the programs were the way they were. Same with my recipes. A guy from South Dakota helped me write most of them. Very well known sausage guy, considered one of the top guys in the country. Really helped me out on my recipes, and I encouraged them to keep them because they always did really good for me. But if you want to change them, you're more than welcome to change them because it's your shop now and you got to create your own flavor. But as far as buying it, it's just keeping just an open relationship with the previous owners or even the purchaser. And I still get along with them really good. And they're only 12 miles down the road. Matter of fact, they were just up here on Monday. Just had a few questions to ask. And and I occasionally will go down to that shop and see what they've done because they've went under USDA also, and they always want to show me what they've done different to their kill floor and holding area and what they've done. But it's just this getting along with everybody and being 100% honest. The guy that I bought it from wasn't necessarily honest about the condition of a lot of the equipment, and some of that falls back onto me. Like I said, I should have tore the cases apart, looked at the cases, see what condition they were under. But like I say, that's my own negligence. And he really didn't seem to care that they were in that bad a shape. Same with the compressors and condensers, he really didn't care. Whereas when I was out in Richland, I had a book of when all the compressors were replaced, how old they were. I had everything I had, I gave to them. And when I came here, like I say, it's my own fault for not looking harder. I was just looking at how nice it looked, but underneath everything, it was not very good looking. But I think we got it all figured out now. And I think getting back to the previous question on new ownerships, don't expect to make a fortune the first couple of years because you're gonna spend money on stuff. And it's not a get rich quick business. I mean, you're gonna have to work for it, and you're gonna have to get your customers, especially if you're new to the industry. You're gonna have to get your customers trust. And once you get that, then word of mouth will help you out a lot. But yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Awesome. Angela, Nathan?
So the previous owners for our business, were also a husband-wife duo. It was J&K Meats, Jerry and Kay. And so we kind of tag teamed. So I took the business side of it, with the previous owner's wife. I have no business background. I have a degree in mass communications, nothing to do with business. So I was starting from the ground up there. Nathan went with Jerry on the other side of things and did all of the slaughtering, the cutting, the sausage making. Like Dean had said, we got all of their recipes that they had developed. They had been in business for 37 they had been in business for 37 years. So they had all that developed and done. We also took over their entire customer base. So we kind of started ahead of the game, I guess, a little bit. But like Dean had said, also, we did struggle with when we first took over and we were young and new. And even those previous customers didn't trust us for the first couple of years. We really had to prove ourselves to them. And that took time and patience all the way around. So I think we got pretty lucky with the owners that we took over from. They were just really willing to kind of get down in the trenches with us and teach us what to do and make sure that we had a good solid understanding of it before they really walked away from us.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So whether it be in purchasing phase, a building phase, even purchasing equipment or selling the business, what were there any organizations like Dean, you said, state meat organizations or AMP or like small business development centers or even the Minnesota Department of Ag, were any of them really helpful when it came to, like I said, purchasing, selling, or gaining knowledge even?
For us, it was networking. You develop your friendships with all other shops, and thankfully I've met some fantastic people in this industry. So when I started out, I knew nobody. My first convention I went to, I didn't know a single person there, and I felt completely out of place. And just the neighboring shop, when I was in New Richland, called me up one day and said, I nominated you to go on the board. And I was just like, I'm not ready. I don't know anybody. And he goes, well, this is the way you're going to learn. And so you just develop this friendship and with everybody. And it's not just the people in the state of Minnesota. The thing about our association, we get a lot of people from Wisconsin coming over. And then we decided to go into the National Association or the American Association. And I developed quite a few friends that way also. And so when I started doing this whole expansion, I called quite a few people and asked them, what would you go with and how would you do this? And just depending on other processors instead of an association or another, obviously a business is going to promote their product, whatever it's a smokehouse or a grinder, whatever you got, they're going to push their product, good, bad, or otherwise. They're going to push their product. So that's how I ended up with the equipment that I've got, is just from talking to other people that have got the product. What are the pros and cons of this product that I'm looking at? Would you recommend spending this kind of money on it? And my biggest thing was, I'll just throw the stuffers out there, for example, was Hotman. So we had a VF50, and anybody that's kind of been in the industry knows that Hotman, after so many years, discontinue their older equipment, and they don't even make parts for them anymore. So I really struggled with that, buying more equipment from them. But after talking to other plants, they said, but that's what you're used to. It's still considered one of the top stuffers out there. And that's why I bought another one, just throwing that piece of equipment out there for an example. I wasn't gonna buy one. I was going to go with the VMAG. I talked to a couple other guys that went from Hotman to VMAG, and they said they would have never made, or they wish they would have never made that transition or that change. And now they're both selling their VMAGs, going back to a Hotman. So if I went to talk to them, I probably would have got a VMAG. But like I say, it's when I was looking at equipment, like I say, I just went and talked to other processors instead of looking at equipment dealers, seeing what everybody was happy with, what you're comfortable with. And all the equipment out there is good equipment. You're really not going to buy per se junk equipment. it's just all a matter of what are you going to be comfortable with buying? What are you going to be comfortable with spending money on? So I was always raised, but my dad always told me my dad was a farmer, and he just said always buy the top of the line or high quality equipment, because if you're going to buy cheaper equipment and it's going to break, eventually over time that cheaper equipment's going to cost more than the high quality equipment. Because you're replacing it more, whereas that high quality piece of equipment that you start out with, you won't have the expenses into it like you will with the cheaper equipment. So that's how I look at stuff when I buy it. That's what I tell people. Sometimes you gotta look. Yeah, and I do understand that, the pocketbook is only so deep, but good example is I just put in a new cooler. I went with a used one and I knew better than that, but I still went with it. Why I went with it, I don't know. I still kicked myself for doing it, because what I spent on that used piece of equipment, or that used cooler, I could have bought a new one and saved about $10,000, because my refrigeration guys came over. It took them 4 days to put it up. If I would have bought a brand new one, they said it would have been up in less than a day. But it's just custom fitting, and I knew better. I let the place that I bought that cooler from talk me into buying a used one when I had completely intended on buying a brand new one. So kind of stick to your guns too on what you're looking for. Sometimes buying new is better. It seems better buying used because you can save some money here and there, but that's not always the way it is. So you get your warranties. Like say, especially on, and I'll tell anybody this now after buying that used cooler. I got more stuck into that used cooler than what I could have bought a brand new one for. Because I was thinking I was saving a few bucks, and then it ended up costing me quite a few bucks. So, but like I say, just talk to other plant owners first. And most people will be honest with them or with you on what you're looking at buying. Because they're not going to promote a piece of equipment that they've had nothing but problems with. So that's what I would say to them.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Angela, Nathan, anything to add there?
So when we first purchased the original building, like Nathan said, we were young. We were 22, 23 years old. We didn't have much background. We just kind of bought it from them. They weren't a part of the Minnesota Association of Meat Processors. We weren't a part of that. We actually didn't become a part of that until I think like 2020. When we decided to build this new facility and expand, that's when our horizons open to the multiple other agencies that are out there that can help you and guide you through that process. AURI, you guys were a huge help. I mean, from helping us develop our labels and our nutrition facts to redoing my HACCP plan with me so that we could go USDA. You guys were a huge help. The Minnesota Association of Meat Processors, we toured so many plants to put together this one and to really get our bearings as far as how we wanted our building and our blueprints to look. Anytime we called a facility, and we're busy. I mean, we're all booked out, we're all busy. And every single plant that we called and asked them, can we tour your facility? Can we kind of pick your brains on this? They were always willing to help us. The Minnesota Department of Ag went to bat for us more than once when we were in the middle of building this facility and we had plumbing inspectors trying to kind of shut us down. The Department of Ag was sending emails and making phone calls on our behalf. And so there's a lot of agencies out there that are on your side. It's just kind of a means of finding those institutions and just asking for their help because they're definitely out there. Small business, the SBDCA, they were huge. They put together all of our projections for us. Yeah, there's multiple agencies out there. And that's one thing I wish that was kind of more widely known or more widely accessible, is who those agencies are and how to find them or how to contact them.
All right, well, thanks for that. I know we're getting close to the end, so again, I want to just say thank you for carving out some time from your busy schedules for this, but I guess to kind of wrap this up, kind of two questions in one is, what was a challenge maybe that really came out of left field that you'd never heard of anyone having? And then also any, just a final bit of advice for anyone who's looking to either purchase or sell. So Angela, Nathan, you want to start there?
One of the bigger things we found when we were trying to do this building is with the financing. We had one bank and all they wanted to do was get a
Angel investor.
angel investor involved in our business. And they would basically anything we would get all the paperwork, they would say, nope, we have this person though that would be able to help you. They did not want us to run keep it with just the two of us as owners. And that was one thing when we started that we said that's all we wanted was just to be the sole owners of this business. So right now when we just ended up switching banks and stuff, but that was probably one of the biggest challenges here, and that probably delayed us about a year in opening. Because with that for a long time. But yeah, I don't know. We wanted to be our own. I didn't want to have angel investors in our company because I felt like I shouldn't do it then if we can't do it ourselves. So
Piece of advice. Good advice.
I mean, if you're looking at as for advice, if you're looking for, I would get a hold of another meat locker and go work with them if you're thinking about doing it before you would just jump into it with no experience, I guess.
Because like Dean said, this is not a get rich quick scheme
And you
by
don't work
any means.
8 to 5.
And it's not an 8 to 5 job. In our new facility, we literally have a shower and a futon in here, and they've both been used because we don't leave. We live here, we eat here, we sleep here, we cry here, we do everything here in this building. And so if you're really not willing to commit to it, it's not going to work.
Awesome. I think that's some great advice. Dean, how about from you?
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything, Angela and Nathan said. It's like I said before, it's not a get rich quick scheme. I mean, if you're just going to open up, like I mentioned before, you got to get the trust of new customers, because as of right now, they're probably shopping somewhere else. And now you got to convince them to shop at your place. But along with that, the challenges, where do you start? There's challenges every day. Employees. I mean, we all know how that is right now. Probably 8-10 years ago, I was hiring my full-time guys for $13 to $15 an hour, and that's what I have to pay my cleanup kids now just to get them to walk through the door. So right there's a challenge. You're going to be paying your guys in order to keep good ones, probably more than what you're going to be paying yourself. It doesn't sound right, but until you get up and going and things are finally flowing good, and I mean that's just the way it's going to be. You're going to miss some pay periods for yourself just so you can make payroll for your employees. As far as financing, I agree 100% with what Angela and Nathan said. Do it on your own. The guys that bought my shop did it as partners. It didn't even last 3 years. The partnership broke up. Only do it with yourself. Like say you get one person that thinks he's working harder than you are. They're putting in more hours, they're doing more, they're making more decisions. Next thing you know, friendships are broken. As far as getting silent investors, absolutely not, because they do not understand the meat industry. the meat industry has its ups and downs. Right now, we're probably going to be going through some downs, you know, with the price of cattle being where they're at and they're expected to go higher. It's really going to cut into our profits. You know, you got to convince your customers now that you're getting a good deal when you're buying burger at $6 a pound when they can go at a Quick Trip and buy it for $4.99. How are you going to convince them that, you know, that $2 a pound difference is a good deal and keep them coming to you? They say, you know, and for me, I think Angela and Nathan, you guys have the same grant writer. Find a fantastic grant writer. The one that we've got, she is awesome. But keep looking for those grants. I wish there was more. During COVID, they couldn't give us enough money. Now they shut the doors on us. I feel anyway. Even though I was fortunate enough to get this last grant, it doesn't take long to spend it. You know, when these young people are looking to get into it, they got to look at all aspects of everything. Just talking to other people, other plant owners, what are the challenges that you face? Because each area is going to have its own challenges. Like the town that I moved into, my expenses are twice in this town than what they were in the other town that I was in. And that's only 10 miles away, 12 miles away. Understand your financing and what you can spend. And don't go right to the limit because you're going to have unforeseen expenses popping up, equipment breaking down, and then you might get an account where you need some equipment that's going to be a fantastic account, but you can't do it unless you buy this new piece of equipment to go with it. And just never stop learning. I've been in this business for almost 40 years. And once you stop taking advice from people, to me, you've closed your ears and you've stopped learning, then you're no longer moving forward. You've stopped. And I'm always one, I don't know how to put it. I always play the dumb card because you're always willing to learn. The University of Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, the colleges always put on fantastic courses. Don't be afraid to go to them. I know it's hard to get out of the shop for a couple days, but those seminars that they put on are very, very educational, and they're not putting them on just to waste their time. They're putting them on to educate us. And whether it's, I go to refresher courses on my HACCP all the time. And just to pick up one or two new things. I went to the snack stick course in Wisconsin here this past spring or late winter. And even though I've been doing this for making snack sticks for 25 years or 22 years, I picked up a lot of new things on how to do them, what to do, what not to do. And those courses aren't cheap, but definitely go to them. Never stop learning. So yeah, that's be my advice to them.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Angela, Nathan, and Dean, for taking up this hour out of your day, as well as helping anyone with some information, hopefully, who is looking to either buy or sell. So hopefully, again, just can't express how appreciative we are. And just want to say that the short course that was on transitioning a meat processing business was brought to you by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute, AURI, as well as the United States Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Marketing Service. And it was also recorded and will be up both on our website, auri.org, as well as AURI's YouTube page. So again, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Angela and Nathan. And thank you everyone for attending.